Business owners, entrepreneurs, and even my pastors, I got a question for you. Do you often find yourself struggling to grow your online business or ministry quickly? Then stick around because I'm going to give you 3 power tips on how to do that sooner rather than later. What's going on, everybody? Glenn P. Brooks Jr. here. Super excited to be back with you on another episode of Bootstrapping Business and Ministry, episode 18. And today we're going to talk about, and I'm going to give you 3 power tips to grow your online business. But before we go there, let me just set some ground rules. One of the challenges that I faced early on when we started growing this online space that we're in was that I had the mindset of trying to do everything right now. And I think that unfortunately, a lot of us as business owners, particularly entrepreneurs, we want things now. There's a lot of things that are driving that, quite frankly. Sometimes you're in a situation where you need to pay bills. You're in a situation where you need to put food on the table. You're in a situation where you need to pay back lenders, or something is driving you to want to go or grow fast. Well, I'm going to suggest some things to you that I implemented early on, and it was a mindset shift that I had to make if I was really going to get traction. And number one, I had to stop trying to make money. Now, I know that is almost blasphemous, right? That is an oxymoronic statement if you've ever heard one, because why else would we get into business but to be able to make money? Well, here's the difference that I want you to kind of wrap your mind around. When you are trying to make money, it actually translates into nervous energy, not only for you, but it's received that way on the other end. So for the person who is doing business with you, they're going to feel pushed. They're going to feel that you're trying to sell them something. They're going to feel like they're being bullied or forced into something that they really don't want to do. And oftentimes it's purely because you are trying to make a dollar. Now, I had to learn the hard way because I come from a sales background. I worked in the radio sales industry for a number of years for a number of big radio companies. And I understood the art of selling, right? I had a budget to make. I had goals to meet. And quite frankly, that was what I was being evaluated on. And when I first started out in this entrepreneurial journey, I brought a lot of that mindset with me. And I found myself getting really bogged down because at that particular point, people were feeling pushed. People were feeling like they were being sold. And I had to really, really calm down and understand the big picture. Let me share something with you that I think is probably true of many of you. We actually showed up in an entrepreneurial space to add value that makes us money on the back end. But here's the challenge. When we get super passionate about that, it can come across the wrong way. So one of the things I want to encourage you to do is to work on your business and not in your business. What do I mean when I say that? So for me, I had to start thinking very differently. I had to start thinking with the end game or the end customer or the end client in mind. What do they want? What do they need? For me, I was in the relationship development space, still am. But I started out in the more professional end of that spectrum than I did the personal development part of that spectrum. And one of the biggest things that I learned very quickly was there was a need that a lot of the people that I wanted to work with, particularly in the school systems, in corporate settings, they had a need to be super productive for their clients and that sort of thing. So if I was more focused on selling them a package, or I was more focused on them booking me to speak, then I would be less focusing on how can I add value to the person that you add value to. So for me, that took me down the journey, or on the journey of having to develop the business of reaching that end game. Does that make sense? So for me, it really looked like focusing in on it from the reverse standpoint. So now, instead of focusing on selling them something, I focused on developing something that they could not live without. So for instance, for me, those became workshops. Workshops where, yes, you're going to book me to come speak, but what I'm going to do when I get there is I'm going to add so much value to your trainers, that when they go and they do their job, it actually produces a results because I slow down to identify your pain point. I slow down to identify what your consumer, your customer, or your target client needed or your target audience wanted. And so because of that, it caused me to have to work on my business. I had to do research. I had to understand what the pain points of those people were. So when you do those kinds of things, it will slow you down and take your mind off of the ball of, oh my God, I need to close this deal. Or, oh my God, if I don't make money, I'm not going to be able to keep the doors open. And it takes the energy out of the room. Number two, I want you to really, and this is something that really was difficult for me. I'm assuming that it's probably difficult for most entrepreneurs. And I don't like to assume very often, but I'm pretty clear on this one. And that is number two, you have to get clear. Now, when I say I'm making the assumption that you're not, I'm doing it from this perspective. I'm watching entrepreneurs that I get to coach understand what they want, but they don't understand why. And I need you guys to really lean into this. When you get super clear on your why, it changes everything, because now at this particular point, it allows you to do whatever you have to do to be able to deliver that end game, because you know why you're showing up. So when it gets difficult, and it's going to get difficult, when the bills are not getting paid, and there are going to be times where the bills are not getting paid, you're going to have to show up with the kind of passion that says, you know what, my why is more important than the what I have to do to jump through these hoops in order to get this value added to that particular client. So I want you to do less. Let me phrase it this way. What is the one thing such by doing it makes everything easier or unnecessary? When I say that, guys, what I'm really saying is, what is that one thing that if you did that, it would actually position you to attract a customer, to attract a client versus chasing one down? I'll never forget trying to get booked into a local high school to do some staff development for the teachers there. And I never will forget this idea of having to run people down and chase them and get them on the phone. And one of the things I learned really quickly was that administrators who can't make those decisions are super duper busy, and they don't have time to really pay attention to your thing, right? Because they've got 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, in this case, 3,000 students to keep up with. So what I had to do is begin positioning myself in a place where what I was doing attracted them. So when I wrote, I think it was my 4th book, Managing Students Through Relationships, Not Rules, all of a sudden, boom, when I showed up in one place, maybe on social media, talking about the principles of the 7 keys of connecting to students, it all of a sudden started ringing light bulbs off in administrators' head, particularly if I was doing that on a platform that attracted them. Does that make sense, guys? So I need you to figure out how to position yourself in a way that sort of attracts the person that you want to do business with versus chasing after the person you want to do business with. Because when you're chasing, here's what I'm going to tell you, they're not really looking for you at that particular point. But when you position yourself, even when they're not looking for you, they often will run into you. I hope that makes sense. And number 3, we're talking about the power tips to grow your online business. Number 1 is stop trying to make money. Actually, I want you to do less doing and more thinking, right? Because if you're working on the business versus working in the business, you'll find yourself really being able to grow your business much quicker. Number 2, I want you to get clear. What is the one thing such by doing it, everything becomes either easier or unnecessary? And number 3, I want you to do things that don't scale. Now, I know, again, I'm famous for making these statements that sound like they actually cancel each other out. So as a business owner, how else are you going to make money if you can't scale your product? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you can't create a way for your product to first touch the heart of someone, that you don't have to worry about scaling it, because won't nobody purchase the product and or the service. So what do I mean when I say that? I need you to remember that your business is a reflection of you. Write that down somewhere. Your business is actually a reflection of you. When you're talking about brands, and particularly personal brands, they're a reflection of your core values. They're a reflection of how you think, how you show up in the world. And the truth of the matter is that I have found that whenever I can create personal touch in my business, it changes everything. In other words, when I can touch an individual's life based on the product or services that I've rendered, it changes the game, because now that person becomes a fan of what it is that I've been able to, or our company has been able to deliver to them personally. So for instance, I'll give you a quick example. In our MAPS Relationship Academy, one of the things that you cannot do is you cannot join that membership community without having a personal touch with me. Well, most entrepreneurs have figured this math out already. That's not scalable. I know it's not. I can't automate you touching me other than by doing it in an impersonal way, a video, something where I'm not organically showing up, something that's evergreen. Although it could work, here's the challenge. Because we're creating a culture of transformation in our Relationship Academy, I do not want people in that community that's not interested in doing the work to transform their lives, because as a relationship development specialist, that's what I'm all about. I actually don't want to work with people who aren't actually interested in changing something about themselves, particularly when it comes to their personal relationships. So if that's the case, when I work with you one-on-one and I do what we call a discovery call, I'm able to figure out, oh, this person doesn't want to grow. This person doesn't want to change. They just want the problem to go away. And I will quickly say, well, I'm not the coach for you. Does that make sense? So the reverse is also true. If I identify that you actually want to do some work that will create change, when we begin doing that work, here's what's going to happen. You're going to change. And when you do, it's going to be like a light bulb came on. And this happens to me over and over again. This is quite frankly how we've been able to build a six-figure business from scratch. And that is because people tell people, tell people, tell people. And so as a result, I find myself positioning myself versus chasing after. I hope that makes sense, guys. I know that it's hard. I know that it's difficult to grow a business, particularly quickly, right? I actually think that you don't get to determine how quick it grows. What you do get to determine is how quality it grows. I don't know if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. If this has helped you on any level, do me a favor, comment below. Let me know what your take is on some of this stuff. I'd be glad to engage you a little bit more personally, because here's what I know to be true. If you're going to get to any place of significance, guys, you cannot get there by yourself. Why? Because we all need some help. If this video has helped you on any level, do me a favor, please click the buttons below, like, share, subscribe to the channel. If there's anything that you need, check out the descriptions and the links below. We'll be more than happy to add value to you, because at the end of the day, guys, we all need some help.